Get ready to meet Hala. She's the CEO and founder of YAP Media, or YAP Media. She's host of the Young and Profiting podcast. She's graced the cover of Podcast Magazine and 40 Under 40, and she's turned her side hustle into a media empire.
On Instagram, for example, people want to talk about fashion and makeup or what they ate that day. It's more like for hobbyists, entertaining, where LinkedIn is about educating yourself.
Welcome, entrepreneur movers and shakers. Thanks for joining in with us. Today is a very special day for me, and it's not every day that you hear me say that I'm nervous when speaking with a guest. I think that happened like maybe 2 times in 8 years, 500 plus interviews later. Well, today is hopefully not one of those days. We'll see. I am speaking with someone that I admire quite a bit, and I'm going to introduce her in just a moment. Today's topic is reaching a ton of people and really accelerating your brand. I mean like getting a ton of people. And we're all about reaching those people through some of the best means out there, such as podcasting and LinkedIn, among others. Now, you're listening now, and I know you love the show. And because we want to accelerate your brand and business, right? We all want to do that. Well, you're in a treat with some information I wish I had when I first started. We're going to speak with Hala Taha, the podcast princess, on how to accelerate your brand. And while we're at it, this is all about helping you and your friends move on your journey to success. We want to help you get very successful. We're going to help turn you into an elite entrepreneur. Get ready to meet Hala. She's the CEO and founder of YAP Media, or YAP Media. She's host of the Young and Profiting podcast. She's graced the cover of Podcast Magazine and 40 Under 40, and she's turned her side hustle into a media empire. It's over $5 million business today. And if that's not enough, she was voted the fastest growing podcast company of 2022. I think that says enough. Let's get into it. Hi, Hala. Welcome to the Tony DUrso Show.
Hi, Tony. Happy to be here.
Hala, we're all looking forward to learning about how to accelerate our brand. You've done some amazing things here. I got a lot of questions, and perhaps the first place I'd like to start is, how did it all start for you? What's your backstory?
Good one. So I would say that I first got started in broadcasting when I was 19 years old. I was in college, and I wasn't doing too well in college because I was really excited about joining all the extracurricular activities, and I was in my sorority and in my radio club and in the plays and doing everything but school. And at the time, I was really interested in singing. And so I had this bright idea to pitch my music that I was writing and recording to different radio stations. And I thought, well, I could get an internship at a radio station and then push my music that way. And so I decided to apply to all these internships at radio stations, and I got an internship at Hot 97 in New York, which was the number one hip hop and R&B station at the time. This was like 12 years ago now. And so I got this internship, and I was doing very poorly in school at the time. Like, I'm talking about like a 2.6 GPA, like something horrible. I wasn't even going to class. And I was doing amazing at this internship. I was always a hard worker. I've been working since I was 13. So I know how to work hard. I just wasn't interested in school. So I was in the program department. They promoted me to be Angie Martinez's assistant, who's the voice of New York on the number one radio station in America. And then I started doing really well on Angie's show. And she basically asked me, hey, Hala, can you come in every day at the station? That meant I needed to drop out of school. Mind you, I wasn't getting paid, but I did it anyway. And so I dropped out of school because I wasn't doing well in school anyway. And I decided to take a full-time internship basically at Hot 97. And I worked there for free for about 3 years. And they never gave me $1. And I came every day, and I was treated like an employee with a key card and had a lot of responsibilities, but they never paid me a dime because in the radio world, you really got to pay your dues. And so what I quickly learned is that being a singer is really hard. And I realized that I could use my voice in a different way. And Hot 97 gave me the opportunity to do commercials. They were featuring me on the morning show. And so I was like getting my feet wet that way. And then at the same time, I was hosting online radio shows, which was the precursor of podcasts on the side. And so I would team up with the upcoming DJs, do all these like side shows. They were typically like group shows, like more like a talk show where I'd like interview guests, but then we'd have like different segments and games and play music. And it was like a whole different kind of thing that was popular back then. But it was really the precursor of podcasts, and some of these podcasts were actually uploaded onto Apple Podcasts, but there's nobody knew how to listen to Apple Podcasts at the time. So people would log on to a website to go listen to our show, and I'd be like, go to alistradio.net or bottommusicradio.com and listen to my show at Wednesday at 2:00 or whatever. And so I was doing that on the side and really gaining my skills as a personality and broadcasting. And so 3 years passed by, and all of my siblings I have three siblings. They all became doctors. And so I was really the black sheep of the family, working for free at a radio station. I was making my money hosting showcases and concerts at night. And, my family was very upset with me. I was like not talking to my parents at the time. And they were just, everybody was just like, upset with me because they thought I was throwing my life away because I dropped out of college primarily. They were very upset with that. And so I was pressuring Angie and the station, like, hey, can I get a job? Like, can I start getting paid? Like, it's been 3 years. I'm obviously doing a great job. I'm running all these things. And it was obviously very illegal that I was an intern. And so me even flagging that I'm not getting paid was not a great idea at the time. And they ended up giving the job, a producer job opened up. They gave it to one of my friends who I used to have a show with. And they wanted me to train him. They wanted me to come into work and train him on how to be the producer, even though I was doing it for free. And so I got upset, and he was my friend. So I texted him and I was like, hey, like, if you want to learn how to be the producer, learn how to do it on your own. I don't feel good. I'm not going to work today. Now, in hindsight, I was like 22. I probably had no business being Angie Martinez's producer. And maybe I was way too cocky. But at the same time, I deserved a paying job. So it's like I see it both ways. Like they should have at least gave me minimum wage. And so Angie fired me on the spot. She cut my key cards and my whole life was destroyed. All my mentors, my friends. I had, again, dropped out of school. I had basically like betrayed my family. I had done everything for this job. And then suddenly it was no more. And I was no more Hala from Hot 97. And that was a huge lesson for me to never tie my identity with another company and to, work on my own things and not just build somebody else's brand. Right. And so that was a big lesson for me. And I quickly got back on my feet. I decided to launch something called the Sorority of Hip Hop, strawberryblunt.com at the time. And I decided, I was like, hey, I'm going to recruit all the other females out there in the hip hop industry and the entertainment industry that aren't getting opportunities, that are being overlooked. At the time, again, this was like over 10 years ago. Women were still like, especially in this industry, like we were just getting overlooked, like not getting paid, like getting paid less. And so I went on Craigslist and Twitter, where I had a Twitter following at the time, and I started recruiting girls. And in 2 weeks, I got 14 girls to join me. And I was the president of this new thing that I started called the Sorority of Hip Hop. And I had learned how to blog because I used to blog for DJ Enough and Funkmaster Flex. And I basically figured out how to build websites over the weekend that I got fired. I built this website, started recruiting girls, and I had 14 girls within 2 weeks.
That's
Within
absolutely
3
amazing.
months. Yeah.
What made you do that? Here you are, you've been working 3 years in radio without getting paid, which is still astonishing, right? All by itself. But you went further into this media business, to create a business out of media. And where did that vision come from? I mean, you could have done other things, but you said, okay, you went forward in that.
Yeah, you know what? It's because I didn't want anybody to take away my dream from me. And at that point, I had been, my eyes were open where I saw the opportunities. I was hanging out with celebrities and I was just seeing all these people be very successful and get famous. And like, that's what my whole life was for 3 years. Every day I'd meet, one day it'd be J-Lo, the next day it'd be Drake, the next day it'd be Kim Kardashian. And I was like in the mix of everything. There was nobody loud in the studio area. And that's why they didn't pay me, because it was such a huge opportunity that people just do that job for free for the exposure. And because I was being primed to be a personality. So like, I was already speaking on air, doing commercials. And so people knew me as like Hala's Hot 97. And I used to get paid to like host events repping Hot 97, even though I wasn't even a personality yet. But I was like I was like about to be a personality, like they were basically weaning me onto it. So had I like waited that out, I probably would have been the next Angie Martinez, you know? But I was impatient and I pushed for it, and I fell flat on my face for doing that, you know? And so anyway, I decided that like they're not going to stop me from doing what I want. I'm not going to be blackballed in this industry, because Angie basically told everybody at the station they can't talk to me anymore. She said, if you still work with Hala, because I was making money and doing all these, I had to cancel all my other shows that I was doing. Like I was doing all this stuff with everybody at the station. We were all like one big family. And Angie literally told them like they can't even call me anymore. I had DJs calling me up and saying like, so sorry, Hala, we can't talk anymore. And it was like just so devastating. I was just like, wow, you're like fired me and you're like ruining my whole life, right? And so I was it was revenge. I wanted revenge. And I was like, well, you're not going to blackball me from this industry. I'm going to show you. And at the time, blogs were super hot. This was like the time where like everybody, like blogs were super hot. And I had always taken all my opportunities at Hot 97. So if anybody ever wanted anything, like for example, DJ Enough wanted help with his blog, I always said yes to these opportunities. And so I learned how to use WordPress. I learned how to run a blog. I had the experience. I was doing it for DJ Enough. And so I decided that I was going to take that experience and start my own blog. And I just saw the opportunity that this is something that I could do. I know how to hack Twitter. I know how to hack blogs. I can figure this out. I'm smart enough. And that weekend, I just built a website, started recruiting girls, and then within 3 months, we were one of the most popular hip hop and R&B sites. I went back to college, and basically, I figured out a way to hack Twitter, where I had, you know, throughout this whole thing, I always had 50 girls in and out of this organization. For 3 years, I ran the sorority of hip hop, and there was about 150 girls in and out, where I would like teach them how to blog. And basically what I did is I would, as part of being a part of the organization, you had to hook up your Twitter profile with our blog. And so basically whenever we had a blog go out, it would like be like, let's say like a new music release with Wiz Khalifa or Drake or something like that. And then I'd have 50 girls tweeting at Drake. Everybody was like pretty and young, and Drake would retweet one of us and then we'd go viral, right? And so I was the first, like now everybody does that, but I was the first blog to do that.
There's something to
And
be
so
said about working for 3 years in the radio business and learning everything, even though you don't get paid. I can see you've learned a lot of skills and talents that have taken you to where
exactly.
you are today. And
Exactly.
we are speaking with Hala Taha, the podcast princess. We're talking about how to accelerate your brand. And you can find her at yapmedia.io. That's yapmedia.io, Yap or YAP, either way. Check it out. See what she's got there. Follow her on her social media. Check out her podcast. She's really got some good stuff going. And I kind of want to segue into our brand and accelerating. And I want to say, as you know, as most people know, I've successfully used social media strategies to grow my show, but it's not so easy as it sounds to just grow social media. I've seen people spin their wheels on this. There's deep basics to understand. So what I want to say, Hala, is we're your students here. We're entrepreneurs. We're business people. Some of us are career minded. We're really pushing forward. We're in C-level. We're your student right now. Can you teach us about accelerating our personal brand, especially in leveraging LinkedIn and why it's so important? LinkedIn is near and dear to me. You've you've blown it up. You've gone to levels some of us only dream about. So take it away, and how can we learn from you to grow our brand? Let's kind of start with
Yeah.
LinkedIn, maybe with the strategy there.
Sure. And just for context for everybody, I have a social agency now. So, like, fast forward, now I'm an entrepreneur. I have a 60-person team. I run YAP Media, and we're the top LinkedIn marketing agency. We do Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, podcast production. And then I also run the number one business and podcast network. So, very, much an expert on social and podcasting. They call me the LinkedIn queen and the podcast princess. So, that's who you're talking to right now. And in terms of like LinkedIn, first of all, one thing I want to note about LinkedIn is that it's a platform that has a lot of opportunity right now. There are 135 million daily active users on LinkedIn, and only 5.2% of them actually publish original content. So, what does that mean? It means that we all have a lot of opportunity to be the dominant person in our niche on LinkedIn. The other thing to keep in mind is that, like, they've got an audience that can buy things. They skew a little bit older than Instagram and TikTok, right? And so these people are in their prime buying years. They're highly educated. They're making, $100,000 or more a year. And so there's people that are ready to buy and also primed to have sales conversations on this platform. So on Instagram, for example, people want to talk about fashion and makeup or what they ate that day. It's more like for hobbyists, entertaining, where LinkedIn is about educating yourself, solving problems for yourself and solving problems for the job that you work at. And so people are willing to hear about the solutions that you have to solve their problems, which means that you won't come off spammy when you're educating people about what you sell, how you help them, when you're DMing people about what you sell and how you help them. You won't come off as spammy, especially if you have relevance when you're reaching out to them. So, in terms of strategy for LinkedIn, I think, there's a couple ways that I can do this. I can walk through the algorithm. I can walk through just like high level, like what you need to think about. But primarily, what you need to understand, I think the big thing that you need to understand is how the algorithm is trending, and also how viral actions work on LinkedIn and how things kind of all work together, because your feed also works together with your DM strategy. And that's something that people just don't understand, right? So, would you like me to talk about the algorithm?
Yes, and that's very interesting. And for the audience here, as Hala was saying, it is the number one social media platform for professionals. That's the way I look at
Hmm.
it. It's absolutely huge, and it's also relatively easy to find your peers there, CEO to CEO or director to director, as well as the category you're in, podcasting or media or HR or whatever it is. There's a lot to it. If you're not strong on LinkedIn, really focus in on this and get out your pen and paper. We're gonna cover as much as we can, and what we don't cover, Hala teaches some really great strategy and some brilliant mastermind topics, if I can say it that way, how tos, which you'll find on her site. Um, so there's just a lot to it, but it's a lot to cram in. So yeah, I like to go over the algorithms and how do you know what's trending, what's not, and what's going to click with the algorithms or not? Why don't you tell us all about it?
Yeah, sure. So, in terms of like, how do I know about the algorithm? I've been a LinkedIn influencer for 6 years. I run the top LinkedIn marketing agency. So, I run dozens of LinkedIn influencer accounts. And I also have hundreds of students. And so, I'm constantly getting feedback. We're constantly doing tests. I have dashboards where I can look and see like what's hot, what's not. And I study LinkedIn engineering documentation. And I follow the news in terms of what they announce. They like trickle out their little updates, and then we validate it with our data in terms of how things are performing or what's changing. And algorithms actually change very slowly over time. So I first really started to unpack the algorithm 3 years ago, and it's barely changed, but it definitely is changing. But it's barely changed in 3 years, even though everybody pretends like algorithms change so fast. They don't. They change very slowly over time. So whatever I tell you now is going to be relevant for a while, right? So how does the algorithm work? So basically, you put up a post on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is basically going to put it through something called spam filters. That's the first step in the algorithm. It's machines that are basically scanning your post, and they're trying to bucket it into one of three categories: low quality, medium, and approved, right? So when it's, spam, low quality, and high quality or approved. Okay. So spam is the typical things that you think of: profanity, nudity, putting your email or your phone number in something, um, hate speech, stuff like that. That's going to be stopped. No one's going to see your post. Basically, the spam filters are going to catch it and no one's going to see your post. Now, low quality is less obvious. Okay. So these are things like using big, chunky paragraphs. LinkedIn actually wants formatting, which is why this line by line style on LinkedIn does really well. And you see a lot of influencers do this really skimmable line by line style, because chunky paragraphs don't keep users on the platform for as long as possible, which is what LinkedIn wants, right? So low quality is unobvious things like that. Putting a link in your caption might be low quality, or multiple links in your caption. Tagging more than 5 people, using more than 5 hashtags. So there's like little nuances that you need to understand in terms of what LinkedIn deems as a high quality post versus a low quality post. And if you have a high quality post that follows all the best practices, you basically have a chance to go viral. Now, the next stage of the algorithm is what people call the first golden 90 minutes of LinkedIn. And basically, LinkedIn is serving a subset of your first connections, your post. And LinkedIn's trying to see how fast people are engaging, and what kind of viral actions people are engaging, if people engaging at all, right? So it's judging engagement probability at this stage with a subset of your first connections. That's why if you have a lot of dead connections, you're not going to get any traction, because in that second stage of the algorithm, you're going to flop because none of your first connections are even online, or maybe your first connections don't like your stuff or don't take viral action when they see it. You're going to flop. That's why it's really important to have engaged connections that take viral action as your first connection, so you don't flop in the stage. This is also why engagement pods still work on LinkedIn. So you get a group of people, like-minded people, maybe in the same niche. They're all following each other. They're all first connections. You agree to like and comment on each other's posts, which within the first 90 minutes of each other's posting, you're going to boost each other up in the algorithm because you're going to do well in the second stage. That's why LinkedIn is still hackable, because things like engagement pods can work and help the algorithm, right? It basically just gives you a boost in the second stage. Now, the third stage is really where all the magic happens, where you can go viral or not. And this is basically LinkedIn looking at a variety of factors. They're looking at engagement probability, they're looking at interest relevancy, they're also looking at personal connection on LinkedIn. Okay. So engagement probability, again, is like, looking at a lot of different factors. How fast are people engaging? What kind of engagement are they doing? Every engagement is weighted differently on LinkedIn. And this was a huge aha moment for me. So likes, comments, shares, even DMs is a viral action. They're all weighted differently. And so, for example, a like is a point, a comment is 2 points, a share is 4 points, a DM is more than that. DM is by far the highest viral action and actually impacts how often people see your content in the feed. If somebody DMs you, they're 85% more likely to see your next post, which is the highest viral action that you can take, is somebody DMing you. Okay. And so LinkedIn is judging like how high your content scoring is, right? They're adding up all these actions. And that's why the more shares you get, the more viral you go. The other thing to note about this is that the way that LinkedIn's algorithm works is that when somebody likes or comments or shares or takes any sort of viral action on your post, that action gets shared to a subset of those people's first connections based on interest relevancy. Okay. So this brings us to another factor of the algorithm. And this is where LinkedIn is really trending. So in the past, LinkedIn was very much prioritizing engagement probability, and now they're moving towards really prioritizing interest relevancy over engagement and recency. Basically, how soon or how recent somebody posted something. Okay, so basically, in the past, things that were inspirational and motivational used to always go mega viral, and now it's more about being meaningful and educational and being topical, because LinkedIn is trying to match experts with people who want that expert content. Okay.
Now, this is
And
about
so,
content so far. What about pictures and the branding and the visual? side? Right now, this is all content. Is that the king, or is our images, pictures, the visual? Is there a place for that?
Yeah. Why don't I walk through the rest of the algorithm and then we'll talk about the
Okay.
features that we need to that are hot or not features, I call them, right? So we're going through the algorithm and we're at the third stage, which is basically content scoring and all these ranking signals, right? And so LinkedIn is looking at interest relevancy. And when they're looking at interest relevancy, they're saying, like, let's say I put up a topic about social media. Okay. I'm obviously a social media expert. I've got social media infused in my profile. I talk about social media all the time. My posts about social media do well. I've got it throughout my resume, throughout my title. It's all infused in my profile. So LinkedIn can identify me as a social media expert based on the posts that I write and the keywords that are in my post and my profile. Then LinkedIn is going to match that content and serve it to people who are also interested in social media. So they're looking at things like, has this user engaged with other profiles that talk about social media? Does this user have social media keywords in their profile? Are they registered for social media events? And they're going to try to serve content to people who have similar keywords, who may have interest in the topics that you're talking about. And then the other thing they're looking at is personal connection. So they're seeing, has this user engaged with Hala in the past? Has this user DM'd with Hala in the past? And based on that, those factors are going to decide whether or not they're going to serve the content to that user, because it means that they're likely to be engaged and stay on the platform for longer. So when you're thinking about these social media sites and why they create their algorithms the way that they do, it's to serve their business models. So LinkedIn has two main business models. They've got LinkedIn Marketing Solutions and LinkedIn Talent Solutions. LinkedIn Marketing Solutions is their ad service. So their goal is to have as many users for as long as possible on LinkedIn. So they're going to reward users who keep users engaged and entertained and on LinkedIn for as long as possible. Okay. The last stage of the algorithm is really to serve the purpose of supporting LinkedIn talent solutions. And this is very unique from any other social media platform. LinkedIn has human editors that are basically scanning all the top viral posts of the day, and they're making sure that those posts align to LinkedIn's editorial agenda, because they want to make sure that LinkedIn is branded as a professional site that supports with hiring and talent. So LinkedIn Talent Solutions competes with Indeed and ZipRecruiter, and they're basically trying to match employees with employers, and employers pay LinkedIn for this. So LinkedIn has to manage their brand and make sure that they're constantly surfacing posts that talk about hiring, recruitment, careers, entrepreneurship, professionalism, and then also like point in time events or news events that LinkedIn is pushing, right? So the last stage in the algorithm, LinkedIn is completely controlling what is going massively viral or not, so much to the point where if I go evaluate all the most viral posts of the year, they're almost with 100% certainty related to careers, hiring, recruitment, or something like that. So anybody who's looking to do well on LinkedIn needs to incorporate those topics and find the intersection between their expertise and careers, hiring, recruitment, and so on, because those are the posts that are going to go massively viral. Those are the posts that LinkedIn will turn the gasoline on, basically. So I'll pause there. I know that was a
It's
lot.
it's a lot to
Uh,
take in, and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking of, our entrepreneurs, our business people, and they're sitting here listening to this, and I've got to listen again. There's a lot there. It's very, very, very involved. But here I am. I have a brand, I have a product, I have a service. I want to grow my company. I'm trying to think of takeaways and what can I do to improve my game, whether I'm on LinkedIn or if I'm not, I see right now from the audience perspective, it's something to join. And if I'm on LinkedIn, I see some things of how sophisticated LinkedIn is. And I'm thinking, how can I really tap into this and improve my brand, get exposure? There's just so many things here. And I'm looking at I'm looking at the takeaways. So if we can focus on or kind of maybe highlight some key points that I think would be really really good, so that we can see the forest through the trees on all this, because it's a lot.
yeah, yeah, 100%. So, back to this interest relevancy piece. So, what does that mean? Now, LinkedIn wants to match experts with people who want expert content. So, you need to make sure that LinkedIn is able to identify you as an expert. So, what does that mean? It means you need to post consistently. You need to decide on the topics you're going to post about and be consistent with those topics. You can talk about multiple things, but make sure you talk about multiple things over and over again, right? So, you're going to want to do research on one topic and all the keywords that you could talk about related to that topic so that you can own that. And you want to infuse those keywords on your profile, on your title, on your even the descriptions under your job titles that you've had in the resume portion of your LinkedIn. So you want to basically make sure that you do an evaluation of your profile and that all the right keywords that match your expertise are infused on there so LinkedIn can start to identify you as an expert. And like I said, write content about those topics consistently. That is number one. Number two is understanding the features that are going to work for you. Like you were asking about features before, Tony. So, for example, videos don't work well on LinkedIn. Videos are actually very underperforming on LinkedIn. There's only certain types of videos that work well. And what really works is photographs. And the bigger the photograph, the better. So people are mostly looking on their mobile phone, and you want to take up as much vertical real estate as possible. And so it's a 4:5 aspect ratio, and you want to make sure that you've got a 4:5 picture with a skimmable caption. And that's going to be your highest performing asset, right? Just a photograph of you with your face. The bigger the face, the better. The whiter the eyes, the brighter the teeth, all that matters, right? A photo of you with your face with a caption is going to be the best performing type of post on LinkedIn right now. Polls are also doing really good. Short, very short viral videos that stop the scroll, that have a unique background, that are easy to understand with the sound off work well. Most people who are on LinkedIn are having a day job and they're on LinkedIn when they're at work, sometimes even in meetings. They're not listening with the sound on. That's why videos tend to perform poorly on LinkedIn. So it needs to be a video that's short and easy to understand with the sound off. So, like a kid running a race and winning, or like children dancing, or animals, or something like this, something that you can understand with the sound off for videos will work well. So those are some tips in terms of the features. And then you do need to understand on LinkedIn, and this is why I broke down the algorithm so much. It's more about how you post than what you post. It's all about the publishing and engagement strategies. It's not really about your content. Now, again, you have to be consistent with your content or whatever, but you could have garbage content in terms of what you're saying. And if you know the publishing and engagement strategies, you will perform way better than somebody who has the best content and has no idea how to do their publishing and engagement strategies. And that's why a lot of people with great content get frustrated with LinkedIn. They think that there's no way for them to get visibility, but really they just don't understand the algorithm and how it's all about how you publish your content and not what you're publishing.
Hala, on that note, is part of it just whatever brand I have, just keep posting something about it, a different aspect, a different topic. It's kind of a visibility as well. It's not posting once a week, posting a little bit more often. And at that, how often should we post?
Yeah. So I recommend that you post at least 3 to 5 times a week. I think 3 to 5 times a week is great. You don't actually want to overpost. So no more than once a day, ideally. When you're an influencer like me, unfortunately, I have to post more than once a day, but I would actually be performing much better if I only posted once a day. So again, 3 to 5 times a week or no more than once a day. And then what was your other question, Tony?
It was on how often to post, and just that to just we should just keep posting
Oh,
about our
consistently. Yeah.
brand, about whatever, maybe take a different topic. It just seems like anything with social media, you just keep letting people know you're there, keep letting them know you're there, keep
Yeah,
letting
so
them
you're
know you're
hitting on
there, and then people finally realize at some point, oh, you're there.
you're so right. So branding, if I could think of a synonym for branding, it would be consistency. And so one of the things that I walk through people in my masterclass is their voice identity. Okay. And voice identity is far more important than visual identity on LinkedIn. So, like a lot of people, when they think of brand, they immediately think colors, fonts, logos, templates. That's the least important thing about branding, especially on a platform like LinkedIn, because again, the highest performing asset is a photograph of you. So all you need to get started on LinkedIn is content, your content, and photos of you. And you could become an influencer on LinkedIn. You don't need anything else. You don't need expensive videos. You don't need sliders or branded stuff. You literally just need photos of yourself and then what you're going to talk about. And so there's a couple things you need to think about when you're thinking about your voice. And I go through this in my masterclass. So you want to establish your core values. You want to establish the personality, the tone in which you're going to talk to people. You need to identify who your audience is and what their problems are and who you're speaking to and how, and you want to mirror that audience. So when it comes to social media, it's not really about you, it's about them. It's about resonating with other people. So if you want to attract high-level entrepreneurs, you better be on LinkedIn acting like a high-level entrepreneur, right? People like people who are like them. So you need to mirror your audience. And then we talk about impact statements or transformation statements. And you should have 4 or 5 messages. Like, so for me, it's you're never too old or too young to learn something new. Life is limitless. You can accomplish anything that you set your heart to, right? And I've got key messages, 4 or 5 of them, and then you're going to repeat them in 1,000 different ways over and over and over and over again. So you want to come up with these 4 or 5 transformation statements. How do you want your audience to feel after they read your posts? How do you want them to think? How do you want them to be transformed? You need to think of those 4 or 5 things and then infuse that messaging in every single thing that you post. And then you never really want to steer away from that. That's how people start to know what you stand for. That's how people start to auto engage with your posts. So we were talking offline when we first met, and I told you I was Palestinian, right? And when for 6 years, all I did was do what I just told you guys. I was consistent about my messages, and I did that over and over and over again. It worked extremely well for me, and people were auto engaging on my stuff. I could literally put anything on LinkedIn and it would go viral. Anything. Because people were just like, I align with Hala. I know exactly what she stands for. Everything she says I'm aligned with. I'm going to share her stuff. There's no even questions. Auto engaging when you're that consistent. But then I started talking about politics and things like that. And then people are like, oh, well, I don't know what Hala stands for anymore. Her messages are mixed up now or whatever. And there was like a period of time where I like didn't have as much virality as I was before because I went away from what I had established, which was this airtight brand where I was very consistent about my messages. But then sometimes you've got to do the right thing and step away from your brand, right? So anyway, I hope that helps in
And one of
terms
the
of.
things is I'm thinking with this, I'm thinking very quickly. Do we? I got that. I may as well summarize some of the points now. Try to post once a day, maybe 3, maybe max 5 times a week. Post with your headshot, a good headshot,
Not a
or a
headshot.
picture of yourself,
Not a
not a
headshot,
headshot,
a
picture of
photograph
yourself.
of a lifestyle photograph. So not a headshot where you've got like a white screen or whatever, a real
So
photograph
for
of
me,
you
where I'm having a
outside in
picnic
a
out in the
meeting,
woods
on
or something,
stage.
or
Yeah,
or
like
I'm
a
out at
real
the beach
photograph.
with one of my quotes, and do that to get yourself out there and get your name out there and get people to know. For example, at the end of my show, I have three main quotes or statements that I make kind of rolled up. So something like that, which is part of my brand, the Tony DUrso Show brand. But where I'm going with this is, all right, so I'm building this up, I'm getting this going. Is my goal here to get people to DM me and open up and have a conversation? Is that where I'm going, or am I just trying to grow people answering and commenting and liking and sharing the post, or both? I mean, you kind of have to know where you're going with this. So what am I trying to do with all of that?
It really depends on your goals, right? So everybody has different goals. Some people are looking for a broad following. They want to go viral. They've got a low ticket offer. If that's the case, you want a broad following, you've got a low ticket offer like a free podcast or a book or a inexpensive course, then that's relevant to a lot of people, then you just want to go viral. You want to get as much exposure as possible because people will find you, you'll have the social proof, and they're able to convert without having a lot of like mid funnel activities to kind of warm them up. Now, if you're more niche and you've got a very high ticket offer, a lot of your focus is going to be on very targeted educational posts. It's going to bring in a very targeted audience using interest relevancy, like we were just talking about. And you're going to want to do a lot of selling in the DMs. And a lot of the DMs is going to be providing value, bringing people to mid funnel activities like webinars or having a free coaching call or a discovery call, and then closing them off LinkedIn. So your goal, if you've got a higher ticket niche offering, would be to get people to have a DM conversation with you, provide value in the DMs, get people to either join you on a call or a webinar and take them offline to close them. So everybody sort of has different goals, and
Okay.
they all work together though.
And one final last question. We have just a moment left. You
Yeah.
have over 180,000 followers on LinkedIn.
No, 240 something followers, 241,000.
I'm reading old notes. You're
Sorry
growing
about
so
that.
fast. It's crazy. Tomorrow it's 300,000. How are you growing so fast in your followers?
Well, really, it's viral content. So LinkedIn has a follow link on anything that goes viral. And as things get shared, people who share them, their following sees it in their feed and can easily look at my post and follow me. So really, most of the followers are coming from viral posts, where if I have a viral post, I might get 10 or 20,000 followers at a time. Whereas if I don't have a viral post all month, I might gain 3,000 over the month. So it's really the big viral posts where I'm getting a big bulk of the followers.
Amazing, amazing. Well, time has gone very, very quickly. So informative. Once again, we're speaking with Hala Taha, the podcast princess, or also the LinkedIn queen, talking about how to accelerate your brand. And you can find her at yapmedia.io, yapmedia.io. Hala, I just want to thank you so much. My mind is a blur. Is that the right phrase? I'm just like so much, so fast. Obviously, I'm going to have to listen to this again and go through my notes. Just great tips, great advice on how to grow on the number one platform for professionals to accelerate our brand. I just want to thank you so much. This was really, really good.
Thank you so much, Tony.
And to our audience, I want to say, please, my special request to you, well, first of all, I want to thank you for those that listen to the very end. And please share this with a few friends to help them too, all right? Let's use this and let's help you move on your journey to success. Thanks. Remember, just take action. Success awaits those who persevere and remain steadfast despite the odds. Sow good seeds, do good deeds, and join me on the next episode of the Tony DUrso Show.